So, a year ago, Marvel revealed Robert Downey Jr. would be playing Doctor Doom, but they revealed something else huge that night, and we all missed it. We know Kang is out and Doom is in, and what was once Avengers the Kang Dynasty is now Avengers Doomsday. Now, Kang Dynasty was a film that would feature many different variant versions of Kang, which we met in Quantumania, and they'd be fighting against the Avengers as the mainline MCU, the Sacred Timeline, began to touch the multiverse, their multiverse, following the death of He Who Remains at the end of Loki. So, with Kang out and Doctor Doom in, the question becomes, can one Doctor Doom really replace a whole Council of Kangs as a villain? And yes, from a power perspective, of course, Doom can definitely replace a whole Council of Kangs. But if Avengers 5, back when it was the Kang Dynasty, if it was structured to have multiple Kangs fighting multiple groups of heroes, and if that same story, for the most part, is remaining the same, but it's going to be happening with Doom instead of Kang, then I do understand the question of how can one Doom fill in for all of these Kangs who were going to be in multiple universes at the same time, fighting the Avengers and I guess the X-Men and the Fantastic Four in all these different areas, something that we've seen them do really well in Infinity War by having different groups of heroes in different spots fighting different villains. The simple answer from the comics is that he would have his Doombots, but for the movies, I think we're going to see a very different kind of Doombot. With Doom and Iron Man being variants in the MCU, it kind of writes itself and would be super poetic for Doom to have his Doombots like Tony had his Iron Legion, but this is the multiverse saga, and I'm actually expecting a full-on council of multiversal variants of Doctor Doom. But unlike the Council of Kangs, I think the members of the Council of Dooms will be very similar to Doombots in the sense that they share one consciousness and they all answer to one prime Doctor Doom. And hey, by the way, speaking of Doom, be sure to check out our Iron Man and Doctor Doom pointing meme shirt, link in the description below. Now, I want to be clear, this isn't just some crazy Colton theory. I think Kevin Feige and the Russos revealed that the Council of Dooms would be a big part of this movie at Comic-Con. Before RDJ took the stage to reveal himself as Doctor Doom, the stage was first filled by many other green-cloaked, metal-masked Dooms. Why? Well, some would say it was just a fun creative presentation choice, and some would say maybe it was teasing, like just actual Doombots. But I think there might have been something more, because you could have just as easily had RDJ come out on his own in that Doctor Doom getup, take off his mask, reveal, oh, it's me, RDJ, I'm playing Doctor Doom. The crowd would have went just as wild. What I think truly inspired them to have a stage full of Dooms was the fact that the story of Doomsday, which was once the story of Kang Dynasty, is still going to feature a villainous council. In the comics, we've had the Council of Kangs as well as the Council of Reeds. And in both instances, the councils were created by the sheer fact that across the multiverse, variants of Kang all discovered time travel, as well as the existence of parallel stacked universes, thus discovering each other and forming their council. And the same was true for the Council of Reeds. Reeds that were brilliant enough to build a multiversal bridge and discover the multiverse, they were able to then join the Multiversal Council as a sort of rite of passage. So if time travel and discovery of the multiverse and technological savvy and being a super genius are all major pillars of having a multiversal council of a character, then which characters come to mind? Tony Stark and Doctor Doom. In the comics, Doctor Doom is one of the first to discover time travel, and in the MCU, Tony Stark is the guy who discovers time travel. So it would make total sense if this guy that we know as Tony, but in some universes is Victor Von Doom, it would make total sense that there would be a council of these variants. Now, is it called the Council of Dooms? Is it called the Council of Starks? The Council of Genius, Billionaire, Playboy, Philanthropist? Who knows? But it would be totally comic book and movie accurate to have a Council of Dooms who don't necessarily share a name or a backstory with each other. I mean, the Council of Kangs, it is made up of very different versions of Kang that have different life stories and even different names and never actually went by the name Kang. We've got Immortus, Ramatut, the Centurion, and so on. Now, something we've talked a lot about here on the channel is how and why Doctor Doom looks like Tony Stark and has to be played by RDJ. My favorite theory is that they are variants of one another, and in some universes, this guy is Dr. Victor Von Doom, and in other universes, he's Tony Stark Iron Man. And my favorite part of that theory is that in universes where he's Tony Stark, it's due to him being adopted by the Starks when he was a baby. And instead of growing up in Latveria as Victor, he grows up in the States as Tony. Now, a really fun addition to this theory, which plays into the Council of Doom's angle, is the idea of dreamwalking. We are introduced to dreamwalking in the Multiverse of Madness, the ability for you to transfer your consciousness into the body of your multiversal self, even your dead selves. Imagine a scenario where there is one Prime Doom, the God Emperor Doom, and he is using his multiversal selves, both Tony Stark's and Doctor Doom's, across the multiverse as his Doombot puppets. And in the 616 universe, he may even take over the dead body of 616 Tony Stark, who also has that gnarly face scar from the snap, just like Doom has that gnarly face scar in the comics. So what I'm saying is I'm not expecting a Council of Dooms that work together as equals, and us seeing Robert Downey Jr. play like a bunch of different versions of the character, kind of like what Jonathan Majors was doing with the different versions of Kang. I think we're going to have one primary Doom, and the rest are going to kind of just be like servants. I'm expecting a Council of Dooms that aren't kneeling before a Doom, because that's very not Doom, but instead they're essentially being controlled, like mind controlled by a primary Doom. Perhaps a God Emperor level Doom, who is the Doom that we will be seeing at the end of Doomsday and in Secret Wars, and who could be controlling them all from like this undisclosed location, perhaps even from Loki's throne. And what would be super cool is if how they defeat Doom is by them like breaking this spell and the other Dooms being pissed that this Doom was mind controlling all of them, and then they all, just like pile on Doom and take him out. And I just also wanted to add that the idea of Doombots is yet another reason that having Doom and Tony be variants is such a cool idea, because Tony Stark's own invention, Ultron, who basically was the evil version of Tony Stark that we're probably going to see Doom sort of kind of be. Ultron had bots at his disposal as well, but not bots that had their own like autonomy. Ultron's consciousness was present in each of those bots, and despite the destruction of his main body or any of their bodies, his consciousness was always still online until Vision shut him out. So if they end up doing this with Doom, this would make it to where no matter how many Dooms the Avengers and the X-Men and everyone are able to defeat, the true Doom is still safe and hidden away somewhere in the multiverse. And yes, this Prime Doom who's hidden away somewhere, he too would be RDJ. I don't want to hear this nonsense about the real Doom being played by a different actor. However, I guess that would be a pretty creative way to introduce a new actor as Doom for the post-Secret Wars era if they wanted to. And we have seen established in Agatha all along that consciousnesses without physical forms can travel into other bodies. When Wanda's two boys, Billy and Tommy, were without physical bodies and their souls were lingering, they were able to enter the bodies of temporarily dead individuals, almost as if they were reviving them. And I do love the idea of God Emperor Doom being a Doom without a physical body, and a Doom who is perhaps in his astral form, and maybe even the only survivor of his dead universe, and he was only able to survive because he separated from his physical body using his knowledge of the mystic arts. And this would be another awesome way for Doom to travel universe to universe, taking over the various Tony and Victor bodies around the multiverse and using them as his Doombots and using them as his multiversal Council of Dooms. But hey, those are just my thoughts and theories. I would love to hear yours down in the comments below. Thank you so much for that question, Eric. All right. Hey everybody, Colton here, and this is the mailbag style show where I take your questions about Marvel, Star Wars, DC, movies and streaming in general. Whatever you want to ask, send it into the email address askcoltonnow@gmail.com, link in the description below. And hey, maybe you'll see your question featured right here on the show.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.